Hello there, dear viewer. Halloween season is upon us, so I thought it appropriate to collect some Criterion titles that are Halloween themed or horror themed to recommend to you. And perhaps you could watch these over the Halloween period, or in just a few weeks we're getting the November Barnes & Noble sale. So all of these will be 50% off, and if you're looking for recommendations for your own purchasing lists, then look no further. And if you're not based in the United States of America and you want to get some of these US Criterions, then fear not, because in the UK you can get them from Boutique Home Video, and they currently have a Halloween sale featuring all of these titles with reduced prices, and if you buy two or more you can get a further 5% off if you use the code BUNDLE. I'll include a link to their website in the description of this video, so if you are interested, please do go and have a look. So the first Criterion title I want to recommend is a particularly chilling one. It is called The Vanishing. Now, I know some people who have seen this film will be saying this isn't a horror film necessarily, but it's certainly very harrowing and bleak, and this is true horror. This feels like something that could happen in real life. The story is about this young woman who gets abducted, and her boyfriend goes on this mission to find her and find out what's happened. And a few years later, he still hasn't found her, but her abductor becomes interested in this man, and it becomes a very strange film about the hunter becoming the hunted, and there is some absolutely chilling, horrific stuff in this film. It also has one of the most spine-tingling covers within the Criterion collection, because you might not be able to tell, but this is a missing persons image of the young woman who is abducted in this film, and every time I see this artwork, the memories of this film come flooding back. So if you want something that is bleak and chilling, and it is definitely not a feel-good movie, then definitely check out The Vanishing. Next, we have a film that I love revisiting over the Halloween season. It is House. This is the crazy haunted house Japanese ghost story movie that you might think you know what you're in for when you're going to watch this film, but I can assure you, you're not, because this is just absolutely bonkers. I have never met anyone who has watched this film who has not been thoroughly entertained, and I defy you to watch this and not like it. It is questionable as to whether you will find this film scary in any manner, but in terms of the Halloween spirit, it has it in this film, and this is like watching your favourite Christmas film at Christmas. This is my comfort Halloween movie. Speaking of comfort, and going back to the 1940s, I have Frank Capra's Arsenic and Old Lace, starring the one and only Cary Grant. This film is what happens when you take the Halloween spirit and mix it with a screwball comedy. Cary Grant plays this young man who goes to visit his two aunts in Brooklyn, and when he's at their house, they discover that there are dead bodies buried in the cellar, and there's all sorts of strange things happening in the background. It is absolutely charming. It has that screwball comedy flavour and the dialogue and the assured direction of Frank Capra, who is one of the absolute best American filmmakers of this period. Also, the film looks very good on this Criterion Blu-ray because it's from a 4K restoration. So for this Halloween, this is a perfect watch if you're not particularly in the mood for something that is terrifying or scary, but you still want to get into the Halloween spirit. Next, we come to my favourite horror film of all time, and I do not say that lightly. This film has the ability to chill and horrify me like no other film that I've ever seen. The film in question is The Innocence, directed by Jack Clayton, starring Deborah Kerr, and this is from 1961. The film is based on The Turn of the Screw from Henry James, and this is a gothic story about this governess who goes to look after these two children in this massive mansion with these great grounds. Early on in the story, we come to realise that not everything is right in this property. Is it haunted? Are there some nefarious spirits living in this house and tormenting the people within it? The film is a masterclass in almost every respect, from the direction, cinematography, the acting, the sound design, and the use of sound within this film is just absolutely impeccable. Please give this one a chance, particularly if you don't watch older horror movies, because there is a lot going on here that could absolutely chill you to the bone. It certainly does when I think of particular images in this film. This isn't horror in terms of blood and gore and people getting murdered left, right, and centre. This is good old-fashioned gothic horror, and it is done absolutely perfectly. Now we have another one of my favourite easygoing Halloween watches that is within the Criterion collection. It is I Married a Witch, directed by Renee Clare, starring Veronica Lake. And this is, again, horror in the kind of screwball comedy fashion. You're not going to get many scares here, but just the perfect characters in this film, and it is a swift 70-minute long film. So if you just want something, a bit of a palate cleanser during the Halloween season, I find this one absolutely charming to the brim. I love it so much, and I honestly don't hear many people talking about this film, and it doesn't deserve that. It deserves to be talked about more. This next recommendation I'm taking some liberties with in terms of the Halloween film, but this film, without exception, it always horrifies me whenever I watch it. It is not a horror film, but you'll see what I mean. The film is Come and See. This is a war film from director Elem Klimov, and this is one of the most harrowing film experiences that I have ever had. In the film, we follow this young boy who is dragged into World War II, and at the start of it, he is hopeful. He is optimistic. He wants to get involved in the action. He's very much has his eyes wide open at the world. And by the end of the film, he is completely destroyed. I suppose the reason to recommend it here is not just because it is an absolutely incredible film, but because it truly does horrify me when I watch this. It shows the true horror within humanity. And for that reason, it's a film that, it stays with me. I never stop thinking about this film, really. It's always in the back of my mind. And I like to recommend it to people, but it is with the asterisk that it is not a fun time. It's not an enjoyable watch. And it's truly a film that contains images that you feel like you shouldn't be seeing. You feel like you need to look away from the screen. And that is a characteristic of a great horror film. So that is why I'm including it here. So after Come and See, we again need something to kind of bring our spirits back up. So I'm going to recommend The Lady Vanishes from Alfred Hitchcock. Again, people are going to say this isn't a horror film, and I would have to agree with that. But the reason I want to include it here in Halloween, it's because this is Hitchcock, and Hitchcock is a master of suspense. He also became a master of horror, particularly in his later films, obviously with Psycho, and then you've got The Birds, and there's moments in the films like Marnie and Frenzy that are just truly horrifying. And while The Lady Vanishes doesn't have anything that is particularly horrifying, it is thrilling. And it is just great to watch the master at work. So you'll have to forgive me for including this film here, but I like to recommend it at any chance that I get. And it's also a great time to be a fan of Alfred Hitchcock's films as a physical media collector, because we're getting North by Northwest on 4K very soon. To Catch a Thief is coming out on 4K, and Studio Canal are preparing a big box set full of some of his earlier films and his silent films, and many of them I haven't seen before. So it's just a great time to be a fan of Hitchcock and a fan of cinema in general. I just realised I didn't even say what the story is about. A young woman meets this older woman on a train, and they're travelling across Europe, and then inexplicably the older woman goes missing, and no one knows where she's gone, and the younger woman has to find out what has actually happened to her. And she starts to think, is there something more nefarious going on, under the surface here? And it's just wonderful filmmaking. So those were just some quick Criterion recommendations for you to watch during this Halloween season, and a bit of a taster for the sale that is coming in a few weeks from Barnes & Noble. I'll be doing plenty more Criterion recommendations during the Barnes & Noble sale. So definitely do look out for those videos. And again, if you are a UK collector of Criterion discs, but you want to get some of these American imports, you can get them from Boutique Home Video. They have a Halloween sale on right now with all of these titles with discounts And like I mentioned, if you buy 2 or more titles at once, you can get a further 5% off. So it's great if you've been looking to import some of these titles. Why don't you watch another video and click the one that is presented on screen right now? You can get some more recommendations for films and physical media from myself. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.